We will start by listening to the Undersecretary of Social Development, Mr. Gomez Alvarez. Welcome to the city of Guadalajara, and with your permission, Mr. Governor and members of the Presidium, let me very briefly explain three important concepts as to why the relevance of this international forum. First and foremost, how it derived, how it was generated. Secondly, how the event will be organized. And lastly, the objectives of this event. 1 year ago, when the administration was taking office, the governor of the state instructed us and appointed us to please incorporate public policies always focused on the person, on the citizen, on the individual characters. And we put up together this type of event for the government and for the staff, as well as anybody related to the government. However, it expanded itself all the way through becoming an international forum such as this that we are about to officially inaugurate. In order to do so, we put together a number of elements, the most important being the well-being and development policy as the main axis of this government. Secondly, the indicators for governance altogether with the academia and the social society. And thirdly, the technical fostering and encouragement using this focus for the prosperity, well-being, and life quality from within international policies so that they can be applied extensively. It's important to mention that Jalisco is the first state in Mexico, and as far as we are concerned, the first one in Latin America that worked on its development plan based on subjective well-being and life quality, or quality of life for all the individuals in the society. Now, this is the first time ever that this type of concepts is part of the agenda, and indicators were also included to measure the progress. Hence, Jalisco is the first entity in Latin America that globally discusses this new paradigm so that we can share with you some of the progress we have achieved, as well as learning from experiences in other countries and in other entities. We have set forward three objectives. The first one has already been mentioned, and that is give more specificity to the public policies of the state government focused on well-being and the subjective quality of life. Secondly, promoting a more extensive debate so that there can be a multi-dimension axis, not only when it comes to poverty levels and development, but also the subjective value as well as the perception of individuals from an overall well-being perspective. Thirdly, articulate dialogue in Latin America through a network that includes well-being and development policies, as well as quality of life that can have an incidence and an effect on national policies. This is an ambitious agenda. We understand that in advance, but this is not the culmination of 1 year programming, but furthermore, it's the first step forward so that we can move towards the goal we are looking for. Now, the forum scope is an international one. Over 60 presenters and expositors from San Antonio to Copenhagen, all the way to Bhutan. Welcome, colleagues. Welcome to Mexico. It took us several months to work on an agenda that included the most important questions, both from the development perspective as well as public policies. We have conversations and debates, as well as video conferences, panels, and workshops for gatherings to take place. The program will start with the most important issues that are of our interest, international needs, identifying the domestic needs, all the way from the happiness to the gross happiness as we know it. Secondly, we will see the subjective value of quality of life and happiness. We will go all the way from eudaimonia to the positive psychology. We will also see into epistemological as well as psychological concepts that will be evolving as we progress on the agenda. During the course of the afternoon, we will have a third panel talking about international paradigms, but not the paradigm shifts per se, but furthermore, what has to do with well-being and development, a non-intangible course from the state to the well-being state. And today we will have a final debate that will talk about the social reality of the individuals and their role, how people feel, and how that in turn will become a generalized concept for individuals regardless of their objective conditions. Tomorrow, we will continue with the fifth panel, with which we will be opening the agenda, talking about the opportunities broadening as well as capacities and capabilities development. And this is the paradigm not only for the well-being state alone, but furthermore as a state and the rule of law and the entitlement of the citizens to it. During the course of the day, we will also measure what is subjective. What is subjective, starting from the premise that what can be measured can be improved. During the seventh panel, tomorrow afternoon, we will cover the role of the government in all those issues that are of an intimate character, a personal character. How should governments go about policies so that the human sphere can be also covered? During the eighth panel, we will analyze whether or not there is a formula for well-being formulas, for example, recipes, prescriptions, if you will, for situations that might apply in other arenas. We will discuss the paradigm of whether it is important to have the interference of public policies. And we will also have the report of the happiness. This report will be shared, and in the past it was just mentioned, and now it's mandatory to always include it. Finally, during the ninth session, this coming Wednesday, we will talk about Mexicans and why the reported numbers are so high, and there's unbalance throughout the country and poverty levels that are considerable. We will focus on the professors, the students that were abducted and the very severe condition. We will talk about that. We will talk about other situations as well as social enigmatic conditions that will be discussed during the ninth panel and in other panels as well. Following that, we will talk about the citizen perception of the contribution. We will try to understand everything that is reported on the part of the citizens and how that can be interpreted as a new way to govern. Finally, during the last panel of this forum, we will hear from different Latin American perspectives belonging to well-being, following the regional agendas and how well-being or having a good quality of life applies, and other experiences in the region. In order to conclude, I would like to extend my appreciation to all the international organizations that have aided to this agenda that is in progress, as well as to the overall forum. We will also like to thank the United Nations and the UNDP, with whom we have talked with regards to opening an office here in the city of Guadalajara. We also have the OECD that selected the 5th International Forum on Statistics and Public Policies that will take place next year, and they selected the city of Guadalajara, and the CAF, which is the Latin American Development Bank, for their great support over the past months, ever since they opened up their offices in Mexico. Also the INEGI, or the Bureau of Statistics, and the Coneval, with whom we will also work very closely, as well as the CEDESOL, the Ministry of Social Development, for their support. Also, local sponsors like CESJAL, the municipal governments of Guadalajara, as well as Zapopan, as well as the social development entity here in the city of Guadalajara, and all the entities represented here by representing other officials and secretariats. In addition to the regular work, everybody present here today has put aside some time so that the expectations can be overcome twofold. We have recorded 780 people, and we are still registering people from over 100 institutions from 28 states throughout the country. This forum will be interactive on real time via Twitter on Foro Bienestar, which is a hashtag we will later on show on the slides. Thank you very much, and thank you for your attention this morning.
Thank you for your words, Mr. Undersecretary. And now we are going to yield the floor to the Mexican representative of the Latin American Bank of Development, CAF, Moira Paz Estensoro. Good morning, everyone. Mr. Governor, through you, I greet all the authorities here present, as well as our colleagues and peers from international organizations. It is true that in a very few minutes, I just want to tell you that we fully support this initiative because it is true that for the Latin American Bank of Development Bank, now the objective for us to attain development of the member countries of CAF is people as such. It is true we can invest in infrastructure from the private sector, and if we do not consider an integrated approach, because at the end, what are we going to do if we have a urban mobility program if it doesn't bring the citizens' security and safety? After 7 p.m., nobody wants to get on a subway, or nobody wants to get on any kind of transportation in urban areas because they feel afraid. So we cannot do this. We cannot do this if it is rainy season and we do not know how much it will rain. Climate change is another subject that we need to bring to the table. And nowadays that we are meeting at this forum that we have supported from its beginning, because it is about our own perception. It is not only about figures. It is not worth anymore just being accountable and show how we invest and what we invest upon. We have to see also what's the population's perception in regards to the public administration and the way money is invested. And I have to tell that maybe through all the international organizations here present, we can work with a support agenda for the different levels of the different countries. We are going to be referring to this today and tomorrow. But if we do not rely on the institutional capabilities at a subnational level, we are not going to get so far away. And for this, I said CAF, Mr. Governor, and colleagues to work together with you, along with the Latin American Development Bank. We can find the instruments that will support the capabilities of the subnational governments. Congratulations and thank you. Thank you for your intervention, representative of the Latin American Development Bank, CAF, Corporación Andina de Fomento. And now we yield the floor to Gerardo Corrochane, who is Director of the World Bank at Mexico, or for Mexico. Good morning. My name is Gerardo Corrochano from the World Bank. I understand it is common at this kind of fora to thank the organizers and to congratulate everyone for this initiative. But beyond formalism, I would like to stress my congratulations, because we think it is very timely to start defining the policies, the state policies, from the reflection on what we understand about well-being. What's the concept we have about well-being, Mr. Governor and people at this presidium? It is difficult to find a political discourse that doesn't mention well-being, but it is complicated to find the appropriate definition for such a concept. At all dictionaries, we can find well-being described as a set of things that will help people living well. But what is exactly that? How can governors develop the public policies that will bring well-being if there is no clear idea about what it is exactly about. It is agreeable that if we decide how or what is well-being and how we are going to measure it, only through that we are going to achieve quality of life. This is not a new debate. For many years, economists and institutions that work for the development, as well as state governments and countries' government, adopted a very simple definition of well-being, and it was easy to measure back then. It was essentially about per capita, the GDP. The gross domestic product was what was considered a measurable way to know about the quality of life of the different citizens. It is a simple logic. We used to think there was a direct relation between income and quality of life. Because a larger income, then citizens would approach and receive better health services, better education, better entertainment and leisure time, and by this it would provoke and promote the relationships between people, between countries. And for many years, the relation or ratio between income and well-being has reached a cap. For the developing countries, increasing wealth was closely linked to a larger satisfaction of its people, and the way it has been reflected by a number of surveys. So this tendency was interrupted once some negative externalities, as it is pollution, stress, or transportation time between home and work, became evident to everyday's life. In other words, citizens started to value their well-being under other parameters beyond income. And it is right now when some of the academicians and economists, as Bruno Frege and Richard Lyon, that we will listen to the former earlier today. Later today, we are going to listen, or we started to listen about happiness concepts that were alien to all this. The fact that well-being in the citizens could not be only measured through the income now became part of the public policies. By the end of the year 2000s, the French government charged Joseph Stiglitz, as well as other economists as Jean-Paul Mitoussi, to form a commission that would be in charge of finding what were the elements that would impact the well-being of the citizens and how the metrics could be implemented in order to inform how public policies improve them. Somehow this commission post itself to express what do we understand by well-being and to analyze this concept with no mistake. And third, it would be how to choose the best policies to approach these problems. If you want to know the end of the story, we should say that by the end of the commission, the final report developed a concept of good life that transcended income and that included wealth, consumption, equity, citizens' participation, environment, and safety, among others. The World Bank has embarked in a similar working process. Our organization has reformulated its strategies by now their objectives are getting rid of poverty by the year 2030 and also shared accountability. These two concepts brief what kind of society we as a World Bank want to contribute to. On one side, we want to work so all countries are able to build societies where all citizens are able to have minimum of quality of life that will allow them to develop themselves fully as human beings, where the population well-being is not going to be measured only by the income, but also on how it gets distributed. And under this concept, we have been adopting very, very accurate definitions. What we understand by getting rid of extreme poverty and shared accountability. Ending with extreme poverty would be that no more than 3% of the world population would live on less than $1 a day. And shared accountability is when income are distributed in among the 40% poorest people in an egalitarian manner. And it is not only through the World Bank, but through many other organizations and institutions that we are going to be referring to in these 3 days. It is evident now that all all efforts are aiming the same objective to, and now we want to contribute to this debate, academicians and different organizations, governments, in order to define what well-being is, how it can be measured, and what we can do in order to improve it. We are convinced that from this forum we are going to have very important contributions to this reflection. Thank you very much. Thank you for your intervention. Mr. Gerardo Corrachano, Director of the World Bank for Mexico and Colombia. And now we are going to listen to Gonzalo Hernandez Licona. He's the Executive Secretary of CONEVAL. Mr. Governor, thank you very much. We're very happy to be here and have you here. And this is an event that invites all of us to reflect on what happens in our lives, what happens throughout our lives, and what are we doing to try to measure and to know if what is happening to us is good news or bad news. I am certain that when we reflect upon what happens to us, we're not only thinking about how much we make, how much money we make, but also we're thinking about our house, our home situation, our community situation, our city situation, and our country situation. We mentally measure how we are doing at different levels, but we also include a very important item, and it is how are we feeling. Am I happy with what I have? Am I not happy with what I have or I don't have? Am I happy with what I expected to have and I don't have? So when we reflect the way we do about how we are doing in our lives, this is the challenge we have today. When we want to measure how countries are doing, states are doing in terms of well-being, the great challenge and the great opportunity that this event brings, Mr. Governor, is how we are going to be able to measure things in a better way, so the governments are able to do as necessary, so people can have larger and better well-being. This is a big challenge, and as our peer from the World Bank has said, it's not new, but holding an event like this make us think on what we are doing. So welcome everyone, congratulations. I want to congratulate the government of the state of Jalisco, and congratulations everyone. I wish you the best luck. Thank you also for your intervention, Mr. Secretary of the Council for Social Evaluation. Now we yield the floor to Eduardo Sojo, who is the President of the National Institute of Geography and Statistics. Good morning, and Mr. Governor, I'm sure we'll also now have more congratulations for such a wonderful event, but I also want to congratulate his whole administration. I want to congratulate David and his team. Having the governor here, having organized such an event proves that Jalisco's government is sensitive to bringing well-being to its development programs. But it seems to me that this event is much more than that. Having the Undersecretary of Social Development of Mexico and the Executive Secretary of Social Evaluation Council, the presence here of CIF, the World Bank, the presence of the UN here represented by UN Habitat and Mr. Rodolfo de la Torre. Your presence here proves how important it is to bring together well-being from the subjective standpoint, well-being from the subjective standpoint, development policies. And I congratulate you because this is basic for the quality of life, and it is now really necessary that we know more about the quality of life. We need to find more about it. And it has been said, it is not new as it has been said, but 150 years ago in 1852, an Italian physicist and mathematician published an initial work about statistics. In this case, the title of his book was Statistics Philosophy. In this work, he defined the basic work of statistics: wealth or poverty, economy, science and ignorance, that is to say education, morality, corruption, that is to say justice and governance, civility or being barbarians, culture, that is, or the power a country has in regards to other countries, and happiness or unhappiness, that is to say subjective well-being. More than 150 years ago, it was pointed out already that happiness was basic for statistics. So it is surprising now that it has been so very recently that governments and international organizations throughout the world have set their eyes on this field of progress. It turns difficult to explain that decision makers have taken so long without indicators that prove or tell how people are satisfied, how satisfied people are with their lives. And it has been expressed here already that now assisting material necessities as work, households, education, health will bring quality of life. And it is true for most cases. But if we agree that these materialistic needs are only a means to reach a goal, and this goal is the quality of life, it turns advisable to find out if resources invested guarantee a better quality of life in terms of them for becoming turning into more happiness, more transcendence for the lives of more people. So in this sense, it is good to know not only what the life satisfaction levels are like, not only how happy we are, but something that is truly necessary is to understand what makes the difference between, what is the difference in what people enjoy, what truly makes us be satisfied about life, what makes us happy, because this is where the key is about transforming all this knowledge into public policies. And for this reason, and that's why we have the motivation at INEGI, that's why we have started measuring subjective well-being, and we have integrated this matrix, this form of measuring this, and I will tell you about some projects. At this event, we will present to you the self-reported well-being that we have made through a survey about income and expense at households, and this is the first global matrix that our government has taken in terms of quality of life and happiness about life. But it is not only numbers, it is also finding the relationship between what makes us happy and what makes us feel satisfied about our lives. February next year, we are going to publish this self-reported well-being module. Is going to be done quarterly, and this is part of the National Survey for Consumers' Confidence. We are going to report this twice a year, and this will allow us to report in a larger span of time to talk about lifetime satisfaction and everything that has been proposed by Daniel Coleman and the PERMAS approach by Martin Seligman. And also, and this is going to be very interesting as well, in this survey we also refer use of time, and now we are doing this with the National Institute for Women. We have incorporated a module for self-reported well-being. This is going to allow us to correlate the use of time, what we do in our 24 hours, and compare it to happiness and satisfaction with life. And this is going to be very important, not only from the gender perspective, but also from many other perspectives. And also we are incorporating big data for measuring the subjective well-being through Twitter. We have developed a project with the support of the University of Pennsylvania and the University Tech Milenio here in Mexico. Now we have almost 100 million tweeters geo-referenced that relate to 800,000 tweeting people, and we have almost 5,000 students from Tech Millennium scoring these tweets in order to see if these tweets provide information about subjective well-being. We are going to link this to the survey and to the Viare in order to prove if this makes sense. If it makes sense, then we are going to correlate these tweets with other hard data about education, health, and security, for example. And we think this is going to be very relevant to all the secretaries of social development. We are just finishing our survey for the national income of households, and according to the socioeconomic level that we have done along with Coneval, we have brought together a new self-reported set of surveys that for the first time ever is going to allow us to rely on the statistics about subjective well-being by each state within Mexico in the same time span for all the states in Mexico. And since this is a module, it will allow us to make the correlation between all this information with hard data, hard variables about economy, demography, and households in order to understand the data about subjective well-being. And also, since this is part of social and economic conditions that Coneval has used to measure poverty, we are going to be able to relate all these elements of well-being, subjective well-being by each state within Mexico with the levels of poverty, the multidimensional levels of poverty. We think, we rely this is going to give us many, many elements for the public policies design. So in our country, we have a survey that covers geographically and socially in such a way that will allow us to make analysis that cannot be done, probably are never not possible in anywhere else in the world. So by all this, we have always followed the OECD guidelines. They are going to be present here in this forum, and we have followed their lead for 10 years. Part of the leadership they have had for 10 years is thanks to the conferences they have held to talk about these problems. The first was held in 2004 at Palermo. The second was held in Istanbul in 2007. The third was at Busan in Korea in 2009. And the fourth was in New Delhi in 2012. So the good news, the very, very good piece of news is that to this list, Palermo, Istanbul, Busan, and New Delhi, we are going to add Guadalajara now. We're adding Guadalajara.
This is precisely where the fifth international forum on the OECD will be organized, transforming policies and changing lives, actually, from the 13th to the 15th of October next year. 2015 will be the year. Ladies and gentlemen, I might have extended myself a little bit. I would like to end up two thoughts. Maybe it took us 150 years so that we could incorporate these themes on the information and statistics generation as well as in public policies. However, I do believe that with whatever is being carried out as we speak, we are catching up. We're actually catching up. Hence, I would like to compliment once again the governor as well as the organizers of this forum, given that this type of forum is pretty interesting when we see the speakers, the panelists, and all the themes, given its relevance that will help us be in sync with the well-being and development policies in other countries as well. We would like to thank the intervention of the president of the Bureau of Statistics and Geography. Next, we have the Undersecretary of Planning and Development under the Sedesol, Juan Carlos Quiros. Good morning. Mr. Governor Aristoteles Sandoval, thank you for sponsoring and hosting this event. I would like to extend my compliments to the rest of the members of the Presidium, secretaries, undersecretaries of social development pertaining to the federal entities, Dr. Soho, our friend Gonzalo, and the remaining members of the Presidium. Mr. Governor, firstly, I would like to extend the regards on behalf of Rosario Robles, Secretary of Social Development, who has asked me to congratulate you once again on this initiative and the importance of its being held in the state of Jalisco, in the city of Guadalajara, and pinpointing some aspects that are still required from a political perspective. It's important, hence, to put together the experience of international entities and the sole fact of having the United Nations here, as well as the International Bank, furthermore the OECD, and international organisms that have been mentioned before and that are fully interested on these topics and that have expertise that will eventually be part of shared information. Allow me to express that for the Ministry of Social Development, this topic is of utmost relevance. It stands a fact that the new social focus based on social rights, as well as the compliance on the Constitution under the United States, Mexican United States, will provide the basic concept or ideal framework, I should say, for all those that are in extreme poverty. It's important, on the one hand, to understand that we are abiding by constitutional mandate. But furthermore, it's important to understand the level of satisfaction that the citizens reflect. It's important then to know that through many tools as well as strategies and programs, we have included all these concepts. At the Ministry of Social Development, we worked on strategies, for example, the National Crusade Against Hunger, and a new program in place that is called Prospera, or Prosperity, as well as other tools for budgetary focus, for promotion of social programs and inclusion, social inclusion. We will always include all these aforementioned programs so that it can be extended to all the members of the society, all the families and individuals from any perspective. Finally, Mr. Governor, when we received the invitation for this forum and we understood the level of the panelists and the topics that will be covered here, we immediately understood that the results will be the most relevant ones. It's urgent to incorporate subjective well-being as part of the public policies. At the Ministry of Social Development, with the support of the INEGI, the National Board on Statistics and Geography, we will be measuring up happiness rankings throughout the cities in the country. It's important to know what the individuals know, what people feel, and the level of satisfaction when it comes to programs and social policies that might apply. Welcome, and once again, my compliments to the state of Jalisco. Thank you for being here today, and thank you for this invitation. We would like to thank the presence of the Undersecretary of Regional Planning under the CEDESOL. And we will next hear from the State Governor, Aristoteles Sandoval. Thank you very much. I would like to once again extend this welcoming message to all of you. Make yourselves at home at the state of Jalisco. And I would like to acknowledge and express we would like to welcome all those that have a proposal, all those that have a voice, and all those that protest. We will jointly find solutions to all the obstacles as well as problems that the country is nowadays facing. We will be together, and we shall stay together. I would like to acknowledge David and all the secretaries that are present here today, representing different states. Thank you for being here. Hence, my appreciation is also extended to international organizations, the CAF, the International World Bank, the BID, and all the officials and authorities that have a representation today, as well as those that represent They are now saying the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4. They are the people that are protesting are saying the numbers out loud of all those that disappeared in Atosillapan. We welcome protest, but the protest should be accompanied by a proposal. There should be a proposal, always accompanying any type of protest. We will become solidarity. Solidarity is always present. We will be together with our dear brothers and sisters from the state of Guerrero, all together with a proposal for all those Mexicans throughout the country that look for and aim at a better quality of life. We are solidary with all of you. This is subjective well-being. We have happiness as part of this terminology that we'll be using, and what people inspire when it comes and aspire to when it comes to happiness worldwide. We have to acknowledge the fact that worldwide policies have accumulated wealth in a few, and that has led to inequalities in the rest of the countries and the societies. We have to understand how to be of more intelligent use of tools so that people can have access to resources and have more happiness levels or higher happiness levels. When we review our constitution, we understand that it's one of the few constitutions in the world that does not include happiness as a concept. And happiness should be a part of the complete, thorough, comprehensive development of any individual within the family, within the community, within the society, so that he or she in turn can develop his or her capacities and capabilities so that the dreams can come true. This is the main axis of this forum. We will have the academia, we will have experts, researchers, we will have all those people that pertain or that have any relation to this topic, talking about their own experiences, talking about what happens in other states as well as other entities, so that we can improve the vision with which this new policy is taken. This is not a cliche. This is a cross-sectional government that invites all the entities, all the officials to work together so that we can serve. We can actually serve the citizen, the individual. But when resources are scarce and there's greater need that historically has been put off or been delayed, we now understand the protests at different regions within the country. And that, of course, mandates for further reflection that will in turn derive into a discussion. Now, there's a globalization that is irreversible. However, we need to understand that the world's exceeding wealth should be better distributed so that more social equity can actually happen. Disparity and inequality amongst millions and millions of poor people and the wealthy is tremendous. We see that in the United States, 400 families have half or own half of the wealth of the rest of the country, of the remaining 50%. We know that in India there is a system that has 100 people that have the 20% of the GDP, and the remaining of 80% of the population hardly survive. We see countries like Japan, but suicide is at very high rates. Many poverty studies and surveys reflect the minimum need of tools so that people can make it through life and have a better life quality from an overall perspective. How can we foster that? How can we decrease or diminish inequality that we all have to suffer and face on a daily basis? We might not agree on everything. However, when discussing any topic on the table, we will, as Mexicans, find the solution so that these problems can be actually be solved and tackled. We cannot conform ourselves. We cannot only manage the wealth of a country that has a cultural heritage and natural resources that are present there, but the distribution of this wealth is not the best. So That's precisely why this type of well-being forums with tools, surveys, measurement parameters can be used so that we can have better tools for decision-making processes. Our government is more horizontal as we speak. It's more opened up to citizens' participation that is always at the table for discussion at different citizens' observatory rooms. I would like to extend my appreciation to the speakers and panelists that I rest assured will be of great success, providing the public policies not only from a regional perspective, but furthermore from a national perspective. And the municipalities will also have access to this information so that they can see into what's lacking within the society, the needs of the society. Furthermore, I would like to extend my acknowledgement to all those that who over time have maintained themselves in the fight. Also, ministries and secretariats from Latin America, and welcome all of you. I do hope that these forums are a success for all the Mexicans. Thank you.